I guess I'm live. I was trying to schedule it and it just jumped on for me. So bear with me. I was just placing the camera. Oops. They're like really right here. Oops, that's not gonna work either. Come on into my living room. Hello, beautiful people. There's my hand. Hi. We're gonna say random happy holidays. And it's been a while. So let's catch up. Where have you been? Where have I been? Where have we been? Where's my cushion that I was sitting on? So this is what happens when you just impromptu. Oh yeah, and I had a couple notes to share as well. So I'm just playing with technology today. And I'm gonna turn off that other music too. Okay, here we are. Let me double check and see how our stream is looking. So happy together. I know I haven't been on in a while, but here I am. I'm back again. So just in case this is your first time joining, my name is Lana Labonte and I'm here to uplift, support, inspire, and hopefully that empowers you to be the best version of you you're meant to be. Support, uplift, empower through inspiring, because this is how we grow. We hang out with people of like mind, of similar frequency and energy, the law of attraction. We attract where we're at. That is how it works. Energetically, we will attract where we're at. Most of the times we don't realize how much we attract our experiences through the unconscious stuff, through the unresolved traumas, through the hidden drivers, the triggers, the old traumas that are still unresolved. The fact that you have a lot of BS, a lot of belief systems up here, but how conscious and aware are you of them? How much are you tapped in, tuned in, turned on to your own patterns of behavior? The way you think, the way you speak, the actions you take. It's all connected. We don't just do things to do them. Although in some cases you may think that, something still compelled you. It propelled you, it inspired, it motivated, it came from within. It might have been easily influenced from the outside, because that's the power of suggestion influencing you, you. It flew into you. The influence that we all are subjected to can take hold if we allow it to. So when it flew into you, when it influenced you, you didn't realize it. It's like watching something on repeat. Repetition is the key to mastery. If you watch something long enough, you hear the same thing over and over again, it becomes your truth. It becomes, just like you do something over and over again. You think something over and over again. It becomes a pattern of behavior. Thoughts become words, become things, become patterns of behavior. It's all connected. So first and foremost, I really wanted to ensure that, number one, can you hear me? Because I'm not seeing anything. I'm not hearing anything. I just want to check my channel. It shows. I just want to check my channel. There we go. Okay, so it is working. Because it's been so long, I don't know if you've been checking for me. Have you been thinking of me? Because I'm thinking of you. Just been in my own little bubble. And down here in Florida, we had a couple back-to-back hurricanes that kind of like upheavaled things. It's an irony. The hurricane churned things up. It stirred the pot. It brought a whole lot of stuff to the surface for a lot of us. Maybe some didn't even realize it was necessary for the hurricane to bring it to the surface for them so they could address it. And it uncovered It unveiled, it revealed things that were weak, things that needed to go, things that needed to be repaired. Now we're in Mercury retrograde. Things that maybe you forgot about. And it also put into perspective what was important, what was a priority, and where your attention was really focused, and what really mattered the most. And one of the most beautiful things about the hurricane was witnessing community, coming together to support one another. Now you hear the bad stuff on the news because that's what they're all about, right? But here locally for me, I heard more beautiful stories of people showing up for one another. I had people showing up to help me in ways that maybe they didn't expect it, but it was such a necessary way to reconnect to our fellow humans in real time, not through technology, but in person to person, mano a mano, like face to face. And people were humbled and had compassion and gratitude. I was out of town during Milton, which is the one that did the most damage for me. And when I came home, I was just grateful that I had a home to come home to. And that may sound strange to some, but yeah, okay, yeah, there's stuff to do. But the beauty is I have something to do. It just reinforces that I have a home that is extremely resilient. And that I also have pointed out to several people, we have an Indian blessing here. We have land guardians. And the blessing itself, and this is something that I hold dear to heart, because when I left my home, I said a sacred prayer and an intention to the trees, to the land guardians, to the spirits, the protectors that watch over. And I was just like, I know you've got this. I trust in you. I believe in you. And not too many people recognize the power of prayer as being a receptive prayer. Prayer is not just you putting it out there. You also have to believe it and receive it. And so with everything that transpired, and it was like my understanding of the storm was it came in and started to dissolve as it approached. And it was looking rather ominous. And the reality is that it just went to prove how many people hold sacred that blessing, believe in it, reinforced it, also prayed in support of it. And this is also how we are part of nature, and nature is a part of us. If you want something bad enough, you find a way to make it happen. Sometimes you think you need to take action, and sometimes it's a true manifestation. It is a creation. Manifestation in creation, it's a collective collaboration. When people come together across social media, in the airwaves, we have the collective consciousness. We are connected whether we like it or not. When you're feeling heavy, rest of us are feeling it too. And sometimes we don't realize it's not just us, that it is us together. And just like the golden rule, do unto others as you would want done unto you. When you're engaging with others, you have to consider, are you really truly doing it? Doing what you want done unto you to the others, meaning giving compassion, giving love, being of service, supporting other people because you want to be supported. If we don't abide by that for ourselves, how can we extend that out? So we can't place all of our faith and trust outside of ourselves without recognizing we are that. So this blessing, and I have these conversations around the faith and trust outside of yourself has to reside within you first. That it's an embodiment. It's within you. That when you literally have to embody a prayer, a belief, a truth. When you are truth in your truth, when you are embodying that wisdom, then it ripples out and you see it all around you, and you see the beauty of the flow. You see the beauty of synchronicity, what feels like magic, miracles, the divine plan, the divine unfolding. It's there for you. if you have the eyes to see openly, or close thine eyes and make them one. But in reality, it's always there for you if you're willing to see it. But first you must believe it and you must be it. Embodiment is all of that. And this is a continuous practice that we have to engage in for ourselves to present and be for others. Be the inspiration, be the way shower. Give others permission through your demonstration. So don't demonize, demonstrate. So you have to acknowledge the prayer within and embody it to reinforce it. You can't just place it outside of yourself and say you have to be, you have to be the prayer. You can't just put it out there and go like, okay, I don't want to think about it. It's like the child of cognitive dissonance. If I don't see it, then, it'll figure itself out. Like there's trepidation, there's fear, there's not actual true meaty belief and faith. Divine orchestrated faith. Don't just think of magic as a possibility. Believe it because you've seen it and you've experienced it. Same with prayer. If you want to experience it, you also have to be it. So much of the law of attraction, people don't recognize that in order to manifest something, you have to be in that vibration. You have to, Tony Robbins calls it prime yourself. You have to prime your body, your being, all of your neurology. You have to feel it so that it can reveal it to you. You have to act and feel and see and do and be the person you would be in the case of the situation that you want to be a part of or experience. Pay attention, because whatever's showing up to you is being served up on a silver platter. It's showing you your work to do. It's showing you where you're at. It's a great litmus of what's going on within you. A lot of times we'll say, oh, that person was treating me poorly, or this one acted that way. And it's like, where within me does that exist? That it was brought to my attention through another person. How is that teaching me about myself? Where is that in me? That's the humility and humbleness that we all must embody. That if we see that outside of ourselves, it just shows you there's some work to do. Even when you don't think there's work to do, the world will show you more to do. And let me tell you, there's always something to do. The world will be full of problems, but if you're solution oriented, if you see it as a little bit of a game, kind of like a challenge, like, oh, okay, opportunity to grow, opportunity to elevate, to overcome something, to learn and grow and have a new experience. Challenges are what allow us to grow and evolve. And that's the beauty. And we just had Thanksgiving. So what is the biggest challenge that most people face? The holidays with family. Some of you out there probably have family members that you're like, oh, I got to go to the family gathering. I got to deal with this one. I got to deal with that one. Or, you know what? I'm going to avoid it. Sometimes putting aside our beliefs and our stories can present us something new, enriching, and unexpected. If we go into any situation, this is a story, I had an ex-boyfriend many, many years ago, and he used to say, do you go into a dialogue, a conversation with a closed fist or an open hand? Because just like anything, if you're already anticipating a fight, what do you think you're going to get? You're going to get the fight. You're going to get the resistance. If you're creating a story about the way someone behaves and it's not really the way you like them to behave, you're reinforcing it. Your ego gets to get off on it because it literally, the ego likes to be right. But what if you changed the story? What if you told a different story in your mind? Like, wow, this is going to be so cool. They're going to behave differently. I haven't seen them in a while. I don't know what to expect because It's been so long. You can create a new story at any time, but you actually have to believe it too. You have to put some effort into it instead of getting stuck in the known familiar BS story. Because that's where we all get caught up in all the drama and the trauma, the trauma and the drama. Like we're all drama queens because we all got some story that creates this, or this, or the, you know, we're very animated. We're humans. We get to decide how we're going to experience things. Are we going to resist it? Are we going to embrace it? Are we going to dance with it? Are we going to flow with it? What is our desire? How do we want to experience life? How does life want to experience me? Because it is an interplay. It is this dance, this beautiful experience. And we always get to choose what our experience will be. But most of the times we're just unconscious. It's too easy to turn around and be like, this is the way it always happens. Why would you keep yourself prisoned to that belief or that story? Set the intention to be surprised and delighted. Like, show me my magic. Show me my impact. Today I walked out of the house and I went down to the juice bar to have matcha. And I had said before I left the house, I'm going to go and meet someone really cool today. Sure enough, I got to talking with a beautiful young woman named Mariah, who also used to work in IT, and we were having a great conversation. But you have to set the intention, and you have to put it out there and believe it. Because I know when I go to the juice bar, something magical happens. I have the most wonderful encounters. I meet the most amazing people and have some really, really deep conversations that support myself and the other person. And also it's that engagement with another person. It's that connection you make with another person. This is what we all crave, right? We all crave deeper meaning and connection with others. How many of us are actively seeking that, or just wishing for it and sitting back and thinking it's going to come to us? You actually have to go out and participate in life if you want things to happen in a certain way. So, you know, I tell you what, you attract where you're at. I'm going to say that forever and a day because I have learned it the good way and the hard way. That you have to be humble enough to accept it rather than resist it or reject it. Because that's an aspect of yourself. Whatever you're rejecting is a part of you too. And when we judge another, we break our own heart, because when you point a finger, you got 3 back at you, and you know, it's a loaded gun. And it ricochets back at you 3 times. Your past, your present, your future. How often, how many of you had this experience where you're like, that person's a jerk because such and such. They did this. And it was a mistake. It was just a mistake they made. And then you catch yourself one day and you find yourself making that mistake. It's kind of karmic. Like you judging someone else for their karma of making an error in judgment or doing something. And then you catch yourself in a moment where you go, holy crap. Here I was judging that person. If you're conscious enough, because not everybody catches this. I've done it. I'm guilty as charged. Guilty as charged. And I'm like, whoa. I judged somebody for that, and I went ahead and I did it, and it was a mistake. I didn't mean to do that. It's humbling. It's not to be humiliating. It's humbling. You have to be very careful and cautious with your language and your words, because those are vibrations, and the story you tell is the story that cast your spell. Choosing your words in the way that you want to wave your magic wand. La lingua, the tongue is your wand. You want to cast the right spell with the stories you tell. You want it to enforce, reinforce, elevate you. We want to be elevating one another. Meetings of the minds, right? We want to ascend, not descend. people only reject the parts of themselves they dislike, and usually it's easier to reject it in another person than to recognize it's even a part of them. I see it a lot because I've done it a lot. I recognize it because I've owned it. When you are aware of your own ish, it's easier to see it in other people. And it's just as easy to see it when you don't own it, but there's a part of you that knows too. It's that shameful spot within you. It's, you know, we all carry some shame and some blame and some guilt and all these things. But if you can make peace with that, it won't loom over you so darkly, because we're the ones shaming ourselves. When other people shame us, it's just reinforcing that we're shaming ourselves, because again, that's energy and vibration. We're attracting that. So if you are really, really hard on yourself, it's going to be real easy to attract people who will be hard on you. I could sit with this one for a second. I'm just thinking out loud. I've had a theme in my past that I am breaking a spell as it is. I've always been that young child who wanted to help, to serve, to be a part of, to contribute. I went in the Air Force. Come on. Could you get any more service than active duty? And over the course of my life and in my career, I dealt with people who wanted to have authority over me in an abusive way. And I thought, this is such a strange, and it's in the system. It's a thread within the system that's gotten out of hand. And you see it everywhere around us. And so in order for us to recognize where in us have we not stepped into our personal integrity and authority that others feel they need to overstep the boundary and impose and violate your rights and your power. Usually people who do that, and this has been my experience, especially in the military, are people who felt disempowered in their past, and they feel the only way they could assert themselves was by controlling another. And whenever any of us is trying to control another, it's because we don't have control of ourselves. So it's an outward demonstration, demonizing, thinking you need to take control over another when you're not acknowledging that you don't have control over yourself. But it's the appearance of having power. This is power versus force. It's forcing it upon another to elevate your own ego. Look at me, I've got authority over someone else. Do you really? Having authority over another doesn't mean you have authority over yourself, because you're out of control if you're abusing the authority, which shows your inability to have proper leadership authority that comes from the place of power and empowerment. Instead of elevating and ascending with the individual, these are the type of people that are trying to put others down to raise themselves up. There's a whole psychology around this. And it's always going back to our childhood wounds. It's always going back to, I had an overbearing parent. I didn't get the attention I needed. I didn't get my needs met. I mean, you can go down the rabbit hole, but everybody's got to figure it out for themselves. I can't tell you anything that you're not willing to see or do in your own life. I can share my personal experience because I feel that's the best way to hopefully to inspire others to look at their own. We live in a world of duality, contrast, compare, contrast. The reason we have contrasting experiences is to also recognize what works and what doesn't work. Well, let me go left instead of going right today. Maybe I'll get a different outcome. Change up the way you do things, because that's going to change up your life anyway. You want change in your life? Not drastic, not, people talk about self-sabotage. I don't think there's such a thing as self-sabotage, because I believe you're always aware of what you're doing. It's just not placing personal accountability and responsibility upon what you're doing. I did bad behavior because, well, I could. You're aware of it when you do it. We all do. And it's part of the inner child that's playing the trickster to get your attention, to look within and go, hey, you see me? I'm going to act out over here because it's an old coping mechanism. It'll get me attention. It's not a healthy form of attention. But if I do that over there, Somebody will see me, because that's what a coping mechanism is essentially. It's a repetitive pattern that got your needs met, even though it wasn't a healthy way. Survival skills you learned when you were young. If I can't get their attention this way, this is what I'll do. And if it's worked for you, now it becomes an addiction. It becomes an ingrained pattern that you at some point will have to confront, that is no longer serving you, or is it necessary? So we all can be each other's teachers and catalysts. So never shoot the messenger, because it's always getting to the point where you're learning about yourself. You're getting to know thyself. Through the interreactions, the intercourse, the interplay with another, you get to see yourself. The way someone responds to you also reflects back to you. The way you respond to them reflects back to you and to them. And you know, it's this just beautiful dance, actually. The dance of the energies. How did I attract this situation to me? What is still unresolved that this situation is still playing out? If you have a theme in your life. And it's quite like, wow, oh, I see that. Was that really my story, or did I take on my parents' story? Am I continuing to play my mother's story out or my father's story out? And it's not even mine. Quite humbling when we come to those realizations. Did you become your mother? Did you become your father? I mean, how many of us, oh my gosh, I never want to be like my parents. And then one day you're like, oh my gosh, I sound like my parents, right? When I was younger, I had to walk uphill both ways. You know, the silly stories you used to hear. Or nobody ever does anything without wanting something in return, and nothing comes without hard work. And you know, these old icky, like disempowering statements that became repetitive, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's like Murphy's Law. Like, really? Just because this person Murphy existed doesn't recuse you of your life, of living according to someone else's story. You have to actually wake up one day and go, you know what? This isn't my story. I can rewrite it. I can change it at a moment's notice. Either way you see it, another person reflecting back to you is meant to give you more awareness of yourself and compassion, not to beat yourself up. Like, we're not here to shame and blame each other. Although the media would like to channel and program you, indoctrinate you into the idea that there's division, only because they created it. That's a psychological operation. When you become aware of that, the world can change before your eyes. There's no such thing as a race war. What has happened is we've been told there's this person against that person, that country, this leader, this, that, or the other. It's all a fucking story. Can I just say that? Straight up, it's a story. Stop believing all the hype. Stop listening to the external voices. It's there to distract you from your life, to take you off your track. That's what distract means. Tract is in the word distract. To take you off your track, to diss yourself. Love words. Play with them. You'll start to see a lot deeper into the meanings. And especially if you take out the Black Laws Dictionary, let me tell you, you'll find the word person means a fictional character. It doesn't mean you or me that's living and breathing in flesh, blood, God created. No, you're a people. And here in the United States, we the people are the actual government. I'm just going to put that little note out there. So you're really one of the people, which means all those public servants and everybody that you think has authority over you was granted it because of you. But they're supposed to also protect you and serve you. Don't ever forget that. Don't be afraid of authority. Don't be afraid to ask questions, but be in awareness, because it will change your life when you stand in your personal power as opposed to hand it over out of fear. This is where I believe right now we are at a turning point. The world is splitting right now. Those who will go along with the safe route that feels like, okay, I just want to go along to get along, that hasn't served many people. And over history, we know what happens when you do that. Give an inch and they take a mile. And then the others who are like, this is going to be hard. This road was not forged for the weak of heart. It was not forged for those who don't have the resilience. You have to have a strong nervous system. You have to have determination, dedication, devotion to yourself first, as an act of love, that in order for you to live in your authenticity and your truth, you sometimes have to take the hard road. God knows that I've done that. And that's what I've sat with. Like, I really, when I started this out, I was thinking about, some of us are feeling the heaviness of the energies. We have a new moon tomorrow. Thanksgiving was kind of heavy. I don't know about anybody else, but I was like, the pulse on the collective is really heavy. And what I was tuning into was this feeling beaten down, feeling sucker punched, feeling frustrated at not being able to express or to articulate. Why do I feel like the world is on my shoulders and is just kind of trying to crash me down even harder? And it was like that Friday too. And I just stayed close to home because I could see there was a lot of aloofness. There was a lot of disconnect. There was a lot of checking out. You can't check out of life. I mean, you can, but when you do that, you're doing yourself a disservice, and that is not self-love. You came here for experience. And one of the beautiful gifts of life is sometimes feeling and being human, being this living, breathing body, because this is the gift of this life. And you can change at any time. You can choose to do whatever you feel you need to do. And get out of the space of judgment. Get out of the space of shame, blame, and guilt. This is all part of the external noise that we hear all the time, that most of us grew up. Oh, born of original sin, you have to make well, you have to think of everybody but yourself, and wait a minute, who's thinking of me, and what? Don't get in trouble, don't do this, don't do that. It's like a lot of don'ts. A lot of us grew up with a lot of don'ts, and we're like, you tell me don't, and I do. Because that's oppositional defiance. And by nature, the ego, when it is not under control, when you let it run amok, the ego will say, tell me what to do, let me watch this. Tell me what to do, watch this. I will do the extreme opposite. Oppositional defiance comes from people who don't trust. First, they don't trust themselves. And second, they don't trust others. And they're unwilling to go into that level of trust because they fear themselves more than they fear the other person. But I don't want to say it's a self-sabotage either, though, because when we're in our teenage years, oppositional defiance is really defined as, for teenagers, I need to have the experience to prove what it is everybody keeps telling me not to do is really what I shouldn't do. I mean, there's many of us who went through childhood years of, my parents don't want me doing things. And if your parents told you not to do it, you would go and do it. Or maybe they tried to steer you away from something and protect you, but in reality, you needed to have an experience. It doesn't make you right or wrong. It's just an experience. And we have that opportunity in this life. So stop judging yourself and blaming yourself for any experience you've ever had. It has shaped you into the person that you are. It has allowed you to see your depth, your magnetism, your creation, your potential, your power, sometimes in a good way and sometimes not so good way. They're all demonstrating. Every experience you have is getting you closer to you. So always remember, I was reminded the other day, the opposite of depression is expression. So if you're feeling stuck in the past, which is what depression is, anxiety is fear of the future, depression, deep rest. There's nothing wrong with it. If you feel funky, go in the mirror Look at yourself. Smile. Look yourself in the eyes. This is my favorite thing to do. And I didn't realize that Louise Hayes had this in her book. My girlfriend and I was in a Zoom call with some girlfriends earlier, and I was realizing, oh, that's where I might have heard about that. But I, for myself, personally, started doing mirror therapy years ago. And my version of the mirror therapy is first off, I got a big old full mirror in my bathroom. I spent a lot of time on the throne having conversations with myself in the mirror. And sometimes when I'm feeling like absolute utter shit, I'm like, how's that feel? Look at you and you're human. Lick that up, lap that up. Really, really feel that fully. It's okay. And when you're ready, you get to decide, you get to choose when you want to come out of that at any moment. But just feel it fully. Why? Because that is the gift of this life. Everybody thinks you need to have just good experiences, but if you didn't have the bad ones or the ones that are less than ideal, how would you appreciate the beautiful experiences too? How many of you out there have had an experience that really, like broke your heart? You'll say you broke your heart, it was just busting your ego, but that really made you sad. And then you see the beauty in the sadness later. Like the real true wisdom of our life is when we come into seeing the silver lining in everything. That, okay, I had to go through this experience. I'm dealing with some things right now, for example, that I'm having to go through these experiences, and I know why. I know why. And again, I am ending a certain level. Oh, Amazon's delivering. I am ending this theme in my life. Because in the past, I didn't necessarily know the healthy way of standing in my power to stand up for myself. This life, don't get me wrong, the system's a little bit of a game. And you have to find how you can stand in it, but not be of it. Like, be in this world, not of it, right? Like, not allowing it to take you out of your peace. Walking that line. And what I wrote down the other day, no more fighting. Do you know how much of my life I spent fighting? And honestly, I didn't recognize how deeply it was fighting. It's like, when I say fighting, I mean you anticipating a fight. Like I said earlier, when you're anticipating a fight, you attract a fight. So in a lot of cases where I did deal with abusers of authority in my military career in the past, and when I lost my job and all this stupid stuff, there's wisdom in it. Because I also acknowledge and I also recognize that I was anticipating the backlash, anticipating the fight. My physical body, I had a lot of physical aches and pains because I would tense up, anticipating. In anticipation of a fight, my body was already tensed up, ready to, defend. And somebody had said to me, I think it was my mom actually, or it could have been someone else in various times in my life that I heard, if you're always looking to defend yourself, you're going to find something that will attack you and give you the reason to defend yourself. And so therefore I experienced that a lot. And I was like, whoa. And it takes time to unravel that mess and to peel away the layers and to figure out what is the story really coming from and why do I feel the need to defend something other than the feeling that I'm always being under attack? Like that was an old story that I always felt like someone was coming after me or they had, were going to give me a hard time. Now, maybe it was because of certain experiences that I had that it felt like a repetitive pattern, but then it became an even deeper groove in my story. The deeper the groove, harder to move, meaning it's harder to get out of the pattern. This is what addiction causes. Cortisol, stress response, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. If I was, and I can say this, if I was feeling the need to defend, it was most likely because I was in this constant state, hyper-awareness state of needing to defend myself and attracting exactly that, an attack. So with sharing that with you, I'm like, wow. We have a system that is designed to oppress. And what does that do? When you feel oppressed, like I said, heavy on Thursday, heavy on Friday. When you feel oppressed, you feel heavy, you feel depressed, you feel deflated, you feel defeated. And this is where we're at in the collective right now is can you acknowledge where you've given your power away and be kind on yourself? Forgive yourself, because it's a fact that you weren't able, you didn't feel strong enough, you didn't feel willing enough, you didn't want to fight against authority, you didn't want to get in trouble and punishment, because that's the unfortunate thing is everybody's afraid of punishment. But they don't think that way, as in why they don't do what they should do. They go in the other direction because they don't want to deal with retaliation. It's the fear of punishment that people go along to get along. It's the fear of rejection and abandonment. But punishment, when you're put on display out in the public, which is illegal, by the way, but we're not going to even go into that conversation, as a living human protected under constitutionally the doctrine, you have constitutionally protected rights, right? Most of the contracts you've entered into, you didn't realize you gave up your rights in exchange for paying for privileges. Driver's license is the perfect example. Registration on your car, social security card, a passport. All of those can make or break whether you're a U.S. citizen or a private state national, foreign individual. But it sounds strange to you probably because you don't realize you were born in a certain state. Some of you might have been born in the districts, you know, the federally owned areas. But the reality is most people don't even know the history. That we are walking side by side with a republic, which is the du jour, and the de facto, which is the corporation. And that we were all naturalized without our knowledge. We volunteered because we weren't giving fully informed consent, which, by the way, in the law of contracts, you can also revoke a contract for fraud that you were not given full informed consent. You were not given the full information. Most of us don't have a clue. Like when you get a driver's license, did you say you were going to consent to them taking pictures of your car and sending you a traffic ticket in the mail, whether it's for speeding or a red light? There's no crime if there is not an injured party. So you have to like really, as you start getting at the core of everything, most of us are so afraid of punishment, we'll just pay the fine, we'll pay this. We're paying not to be harassed? Did you really truly agree upon that? You're accepting it, doesn't make it right, but it's reinforcing the system of oppression. Again, this is why people feel the heaviness and the depression, because they're not acknowledging, they're not standing in their power. And it hasn't been taken from you. We all volunteered into it and we didn't know. But the moment you know, it's just like, when you know better, Maya Angelou said, when you know better, you have a moral obligation to do better. And it's up to you to right the wrong, but you also have to hold others accountable in the system. This is the only way it's ever going to change, by the way, if more of us come together and we start calling it out as it is. The legalese doublespeak that is deliberate and intentional to deceive. That's not plain English. The reason people get frustrated with the system is because they assume, they assume you're ignorant, so they play off your ignorance. But you assume and presume that you know what the words mean. But if you look those words up in the Black Laws Dictionary, and even some of the older dictionaries as well, Bouvier's and Webster's, you're going to find that the words don't mean what you think they mean. And that they've been overreaching, and they prey upon the ignorance. That most of the statutes, codes, all these permissions, things, policies, first off, those aren't constitutional. Second, they're not even for you. They're meant for public servants. And if you're driving a car and if you're traveling, because the word driving is assuming that you're entering into commerce, that you're conducting commerce, which you're not. In your private capacity, you are traveling in your vehicle. And by traveling in your vehicle, you're not harming anyone. But they're always looking for ways to make money off of you. So it's this whole hydra of this system to keep you in the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, stressed out over, I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to get punished. Tell me, how's that working for you? And I say that with the awareness that your God-given rights are constitutionally protected to life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. Tell me how many of you out there feel happy and feel that your rights are really protected and raised. Most of the system is all about beating you down. And we've all experienced it to some degree. And so when you feel beat down, that's beaten into submission. And that's exactly how they want us. If you're submissive to their system, they can continue to get away with their entitled behavior. That is not at all what they were allowed to be in those positions to do. Another reason to dismantle the system that is broken, just saying. So I'm going to go back to what I came to my own personal conclusion, because I'm explaining that, I'm dealing with that type of stuff that I am also navigating, because it's very important to me to be the leader through my example, to inspire through inspired living, to actually show you what is possible, to be the peacemaker and the way shower. I am at peace with my heart and soul. And I love people. I love having conversations. I love engaging and interacting, and just life is beautiful. But every once in a while, there's these little hiccups. And I'll tell you, when I was younger, I used to get tickets all the time. And funny enough about it is back in those days, before they had the digital print-offs that made it so much easier for them to serve you, which technically they're supposed to do it with an affidavit and all these other things. It's supposed to actually give you the opportunity to correct if it's supposedly lawful. But when I was younger, they used to handwrite them. And I, back in those days, would write a letter, because that's what my mom taught me. You just write a letter. Those were the days when there was much more leniency, and there was this sense of, well, not everybody's willing to write a letter. So I used to get them thrown out, especially because I had a Maine license and a Nebraska tags on my car one time, and the guy messed up the ME versus the NE. It happens. But we're not even dealing with humans. We're working with robots at this point, with the technology and the overwhelm. And I don't know about anybody out there, but there's no way in hell that you can know all the laws, the statutes, all the codes, all these things, 80,000 plus. I mean, none of us have that much time in our hands to just sit and read, and we weren't told, and none of us signed an oath that we needed to. So there's more to that story. But always recognizing, because we feel oppressed, we feel that heaviness, the system beating us down, or whatever it is in your life, but the system is part of it. It's a huge part of it, because they took the man out of the home. They took the woman out of the home. How many of us were latchkey kids, or we had parents that were constantly gone when we were young? And so therefore, we saw that growing up, and we knew that wasn't right. Maybe we spent more time with our grandparents. And as a result, it created all this incomplete, broken families, parents fighting with each other, because now everything's that much more expensive, especially now, because the whole purpose of getting the woman out of the house was another one to pay into the tax system, which again is voluntary. But ultimately, it's the question of, what do we do? What do we do out of fear, and what do we do through inspiration? It's choosing. You literally, hi that way, literally have to, the way out is to zoom out, because you have to become the observer. You have to remind yourself that you're just as capable of seeing the bigger picture from afar as you are as being in it in the moment. That's what meditation is about. That is what slowing down is all about. Like, the biggest gift you could give yourself, especially right now with everything going on, slow down. Breathe. Just be present. Stop thinking you have to jump just because someone says you got to jump. Stop thinking you have to constantly meet some expectation. Tap into your body. Do I really feel this is a priority? Is this really necessary? I say that from the perspective of there's a lot of things we need to do. Everybody's got a to-do list. But what's a real priority? What's really going to matter at the end of the day? What's going to fill your heart? What is it that you can bring more love to? How can you be more loving as you, through you, with you, and others? Everything starts with self. So whether we witness in our, see, this is the thing, the power of suggestion. I was talking about influence. It's influ you. It flies right into you, and half the time we don't realize it because social media, watching the TV, or whatever there is for entertainment that entertains you, that indoctrinates, that teaches and spills all that influ into you. Power of suggestion is much more influential than people realize. Over the past 4 years, how many people were saying, our democracy, I can discern. First off, this was never a democracy. This has always been a republic. So if you're saying the word democracy, you better pay attention to where you heard that, because that's showing you where you're getting fed that information. Inform, media channeling, programming you. And most people don't want to admit it. Why you like this one, or why you like that one, or why you're so distracted by this story and that story. I mean, come on. There's all sorts of stories out there right now. I know how easy it is to suck you in. Again, this is a cult of personalities, and they are preying upon your ignorance and easily influence. The power of their suggestion is upon you. It is the time that you need to be the most discerning right now in this age, right where we're at, especially. Just when you think things are going fine, you know, the proverbial rug gets pulled out from underneath you. So be very tuned in. Tap into what you feel. If it feels off, trust it. But also recognize if that is something else going on within you. You really need to know yourself. Know thyself. And it's still that power of suggestion through the external environment that when it, like I said, it flows into you and it influ you, that it is, we're going to see the mirror of our own belief systems. We're going to start to see it outside of ourselves because we heard it somewhere. We're going to, the more, again, the repetition is the key to mastery. A lot of times, most people aren't tuning into the fact that they watch something all the time. You know, noise in the background, people listening to the radio and forecasters and forecasting the spell, telling you what to think. How much of it's real? I mean, especially now we got AI. We've had AI a lot longer than they want you to know. They've already been tracking our data so they can predict. See, some people think it's because they're able to predict what you're thinking, or they can read your mind. I'm not saying they can't, but it's more that they're predicting based on your past experiences and the data they've collected on you. We are the commodity. We are the commerce. We are the ones being traded. We're the chattel for this whole entire system. And we're the ones paying for it. That's kind of fucked up when you think about it. Like, we're paying for them to learn us, to also control us. Like, wrap your head around that Jedi mind trick, because that's serious fuckery. It couldn't exist if you didn't already believe in it. At some level, you have to believe it for it to appear. And this is a true expression of the law of attraction and the power of your manifestation. But you have to know that you are the great attractor, and you are attracting everything in your environment. The good, the bad, the ugly, all the beautiful stuff, all of it. That's how magical you truly are. But you have to like be really in that power of knowing, wow, I am really good. Like really own that. Even when you turn around and go, I was just thinking that that's not what I wanted to happen. And it happened. If you catch yourself in those moments, you'll start to notice it's quickening right now. You see things flowing and happening and occurring in a way that's really responding to your vibration. Because that's the energy, frequency, vibration, the secrets of the universe. It's all vibration. It's all energy. And the more we become present to the gift of the now and ourselves, we become the gift for others as well. But we need to also be willing to step into that power. I know it's challenging sometimes, but kindness wins. But it has to start within. Kindness has to start within you, for you. Compassion for you. Forgiveness for you. Like I said earlier, ho'oponopono, best thing. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. Like really tap into yourself and recognize where you've been hard on yourself. Maybe others have been hard on you because of that. Maybe you're hard on others because you're hard on yourself. It bleeds out one way or the other. But ho'oponopono, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. Saying that over and over again and consciously sending that out or sending it in wherever it is that you feel you want to heal something, you want to resolve something, you want to make peace. Because you have to make peace with yourself. That's the best peace. And always remember too, because we don't want to fight. Why do we want to fight? Really sit with, do I feel fight in my body? Do I feel tension? Do I feel the anticipation of fight? Like that was a huge teacher for me many years ago. I was catching myself on the defense in all these cases with me losing my job in Italy. I literally felt like I was a moving target, but I was creating that vibration at the same time that caused them to target me. I mean, you can't make this shit up. This was my life. And even in my relationship at the time, which I tell you, it's healthier to acknowledge it than to ignore it and reject it, because it's just going to come back stronger. It's going to reinforce itself. The more you're willing to face your fears head on and deal with your stuff in the moment, they're not going to have the power over you anymore. And most people don't think it has power over them because they're trying to ignore it and act like it doesn't exist. But that's when it has the most power over you. Because in a certain sense, you got a fight going on back here. You're trying to keep it from coming out. So you can't be fully present if you still got some shit going on in the background. You want to be effective in your personal space. You want to be effective in your life. You want to be effective in your power. You want to be in your authenticity and your integrity. And you can't do it with the crap behind you. You got to literally let it go. You have to find a way to make peace with it so you don't fall to pieces. No more fighting. And it's not personal. It's just business. I mean, nothing really is personal. In this world we're living in, it's just contracts and commerce, but most can't see this. That's where you get into the, finding your free woman, your free man, finding ways to, I want to say exit the matrix, but essentially what you need to do is establish a trust and protect yourself and think of your family and the legacy you want to pass on. And remember the times that brought you the most love, joy, and happiness. I literally had a dream last night where the man's name was Happy. And I was looking for Happy so he could give me a ride back so I could I was on an island and I had to catch a ferry back to the land, wherever I was. And I was looking for Happy. And I thought that was kind of funny. But it was pleasant. It was a beautiful dream. There were lily pads and there were these exotic parks of water. And I was walking on water too. It was beautiful. And there's symbolism in all of that, of course. So again, don't demonstrate or don't demonize. You want to demonstrate. If you're going to work with your own demon, demonstrate. Demonstrate. Don't demonize. One is repelling and the other is uplifting. Because by your example, you set the bar. You give others permission that if I can do it, then you can do it. She can do it, I can do it. We can all do it. It's if we're willing to do it. And don't become what you reject, because the rejection is your demonization of what is within you, because that is you. So again, it's embracing the demon within all of us. We are demons and angels walking this earth. Come on. We've been it all. We've done the bad stuff. We've done the good stuff. We're seeing it all because we need to balance it back out. We need to put this is why we're here, really, to get it right, to balance the scales. I'm not even going to use the word justice. That's not it. You want to look that one up too in the Black's Law Dictionary. Justice is not what you think it is. We're here to balance, bring it back to neutrality, to live in peace and harmony. It's the only way we can get this right, is to also recognize that we are each other. Even the people you don't want to be bothered with, there's some aspect of you. I'm not saying you have to associate with them, but have compassion and acknowledgement and discernment of those who do bring you up versus those who put you down. That's the first step to establishing your own healthy boundaries. Feed and nurture yourself through your relationships, through your environment. Seek out those who uplift you, not put you down. When you reject, that means you don't accept. And when you do it in another, you do it to yourself. Your body doesn't know the difference because the body's keeping the score. If you're pointing out and judging another person, you're basically judging yourself. You may not think it that way, but that's the way energy works. The body hears the negative tone, the putting the down, putting someone down. Your body's feeling like you're doing that to it. A lot of us have chronic pain, chronic illnesses, issues with our health. What do you think cancer is? It's poison. Drinking poison and expecting someone else to actually be hurt, to get hurt. When you hold a resentment, when you don't want to deal with something, it gets bottled up and it festers. And you're feeding it. You're feeding the flame of cancer. Cancer is anger. Unresolved, inflammatory. That's what inflammation is, anger. And it becomes just like you could eat. Oh, that's wild. My phone just went. Pew! Someone please say something. I think it hiccuped. Hopefully it's okay. Either my internet, who knows? Or, it is Mercury shenanigans, Mercury retrograde, Mercury's gone renegade. Yeah. So it's a vicious loop is basically what I'm saying. If you want to be accepted, you have to start accepting. You have to recognize why you're rejecting and what you're rejecting in another, that it's really that you're rejecting it in yourself. And that the only way you're going to be accepted is to accept yourself. And then you'll be much more compassionate and accepting of others. Like I said, you'd be discerning. You have to be discerning of those people you allow access to you. Yeah, you can accept a person. That doesn't mean they have to be in your inner circle either. That is healthy boundaries. That's you establishing. I don't even like the word boundaries. You know that. It's healthy standards. That what you hold yourself accountable to, you will find that others will show up to you in that way. You will start to vibrate higher and you will draw in more people who also embody that vibration. You start to notice the shifts that happen outside of you when you start doing the shifting within you. That the more you're really tapped in, the more you can tune in to your environment. You can do the pulse on in the collective today will be, ooh, I think there's a little excitement in the air. There's a little newness, this expression of we get to design this next phase of our lives. And you can start to create the story that ripples out, as opposed to be the victim of your old stories, which you don't want. So I hope this serves someone. I've been missing you all. I'm sorry I haven't been more present, but I have been more present, just in my own life, in my own little bubble. Life is okay. Life is fine, actually. Life is beautiful. I think there are plenty of opportunities for growth, for shift. Let shift happen, you know? The great holy shift. What's shaking? We're shifting. We're just making it happen, doing the best we can with what we have. Be kind on yourself. Remember the Ho'oponopono prayer, that when you get really down on yourself, or you feel like you've been beaten down and you're like in that depression, or you're feeling deep, like heavy emotions, don't try to put a label on it in the sense that you need to shove it aside. Really sit in it. Give yourself permission to like feel the ickiness, feel the, and like really like, you know, where am I feeling this? And what color is it? And what does it remind me of? And what's really coming up? Start journaling. Journaling is the best way to get it out of your body, as well as movement. I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, my go-to is movement. I'm a writer, but I'm a movement person. And on Thanksgiving for myself, I needed to move my body because I could just feel it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to get moving. Something is stirring. And I knew it was me for what I was going through, but I also felt it outside and in the collective. And I was like, wow. Here's the other little golden nugget of all of this I want you to consider. When you are getting ready to go to the next level, there's going to be a breakdown. And sometimes that breakdown feels heavy. Sometimes you feel beaten down. And this is what I shared with someone the other day. I said, I'll be honest, I know what this is. The reason I, for myself, am feeling this is because I'm doing something I need to be doing, and it's excruciating. It's new. But that's going to take me to the next level. It's also an indicator that when I'm breaking down, when I'm feeling overwhelmed, when it's all coming on like, oh, there's a breakthrough coming on the other side. That all the hard work is worth it. So for me personally, I sometimes forget, but I have to remind myself as I process it. I'm like, oh, I know what this is. I'm getting ready to soar. I'm getting ready to take it to the next level. So wow, yeah. I gave myself permission to like actually, I'll be honest, this is what I was like this. I was like, I was missing my mom. My mom's birthday was the 26th. She was a Thanksgiving baby. Thanksgiving's her birthday. As far as she was concerned, it was her whole birthday was Thanksgiving. And I was getting woken up early in the morning. I'm like, Mom, I know it's your birthday. Because she does that. Yeah, I feel that. And truly, I was like, I was missing my mom. And I'm like, fuck, I miss Mom. I miss conversation. I miss this. And God, I wish you were here because of what I'm dealing with and what I'm trying to work through. And I know that I'll get through this. And I knew it was temporary. And I knew it felt like shit. And I went into the mirror and I'm like, this fucking sucks. I don't like feeling this way. But I also see the gift in it too. I see that when I feel this, and I'm willing to feel it. This is the other key. This is another key that most people don't realize. If you're willing to feel it, it will reveal it to you. You will recognize this is a message. Keep going. You're going to be okay. You take a break right now. When you are feeling that, you have to give yourself the courtesy of pausing. Again, like I said, slow down. Because in that moment, and the thing about when you're in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, and your cortisol levels are high, and I know I was recognizing all of that, you're not effective. So if you try to do something when you are in those high emotional states, the emotions are high, but you feel depressed, you feel heavy, you're not going to be effective to anybody, let alone yourself. The most important thing you can do then is to nurture yourself and do whatever it is you need to do for you. Get up and move your body. Don't get in the car. Don't even do that. I tried that on Thursday and too many crazy people driving. Don't check out. Be present with that. Write it all down. Recognize what's going through, what you're feeling and where you're feeling it. Really tune into it because there's a gift and a message for you. And I literally had to give myself permission to just go, you know what, I know what I want to do and what I need to do, but in this moment, I'm not going to be effective. Because when you're, when you are emotional, you'll become irrational. So any type of choices, anything you do during the times of heightened emotions usually ends up being ineffective. And it's not authentic because it comes from a place of desperation that people do things during heightened emotions. Heightened times of emotion are the times when you take a pause. You give yourself permission and you forgive yourself for thinking, shaming and blaming yourself that you need to be doing something else. If you have that compassion for yourself, I guarantee you will be served up with the answer and the direction and the guidance that you need as a result of it. So you just have to be willing to pause. And I hope that message gets to the people that need it, genuinely. A breakdown is not the end of the world. It is serving you with a message to pause. Be present in it because it is an opportunity to see it, zoom out, because that's your way out. Zoom out, review, reflect, observe. Don't get caught up in the emotion. The emotion is telling you you need to pause. You may be overthinking something. You may be creating a story. Old fears are coming up, obviously. It's old patterns that are surfacing, challenging you to see what you're going to do. A breakdown is an opportunity for a breakthrough. So from my heart to yours, and this beautiful Saturn Day, the teacher, I bless you with the beauty reflected back to you, that every experience you have is an opportunity for growth. Find the silver lining and give yourself grace. The grace, the space, make life a living prayer. The sacredness of your life is embodiment. So much love from my heart to yours. Miss you, and I'll be back soon.